What is going on, NPL fans? My name is NoPunIntended, and welcome to Week 8 of the Majors Pick'ems. If you guys enjoyed this video, please make sure to leave a like or a comment. I'm sure everyone in the NPL would greatly appreciate it. But we're going to be going over the results of the matches from Week 7 and previewing the upcoming week of games like we usually do, so you will be able to get all the information you need for Saturday's uploads. Now, I do want to thank you for your patience in waiting for this week's episode to come out. I know Week 7 didn't make it in time, but hopefully this episode will make up for it. But speaking of Week 7, let's go over the results for that slate of games. But when most of the analysts, and the fans for that matter, go 6-2, there really isn't that much to talk about. Everyone got the LA Pressure Rams versus the FC Popular game wrong. That's really the only noteworthy thing that happened. Otherwise, it's just kind of a spattering of incorrect predictions throughout the week, which is to be expected when you've got 6 different analysts as well as a collective group of fans making selections. But let's move on to the actual games themselves. Week 8 begins with the Los Angeles Clefable taking on the Dallas Cartanas, and we will welcome the return of Dallas Boy to the NPL, if only for 3 weeks. And this game will be a real test for him, because if there's a weakness that he had prior to taking time off from the league, it was setup sweepers. He had the tendency to get overwhelmed by mons that can boost their power and speed quickly. Now just look at Greg's team. He's already gotten a Toxbrook sweep this season. He's already gotten Scizor in a position to clean up. And with this matchup in particular, Lando T and Charizard X feast. With this sort of game, it's important you have a solid bulky water to contain a setup Lando or Zard X. And Dallas has Starmie. I don't trust Starmie to contain Lando or Zard X, let alone both. And I know that Dallas has other bulky mons like Porygon 2 and Reuniclus, or even possibly an Intimidate Salamence, but I don't trust any of them to properly contain those two threats. And Greg has had a bit more time to get acclimated to his team, whereas Dallas is taking over something he hasn't used quite yet. So I am going to go with the Clefable. But he's not the only coach returning after a long break. We also welcome back Zazo, one of the 4 members of Mount Rushmore, to the National Pokeball League, and his Detroit Butterfrees will open against the Portland Timbers, coached by Togobor, who's another coach that filled in for a team. Normally, I am a bit skeptical on coaches returning after a long absence from the draft league, but Zazo is definitely a force to be reckoned with in this kind of league. Now, looking at his matchup versus Toge, Raichu is very cool. If there's anything I've learned from Mr. Aaron Cybertron Zhang, GBA coach extraordinaire and VGC teacher, it's that Raichu is apparently very useful in the rain. I say apparently, of course, because Raichu didn't actually come to any of Aaron's games. But Raichu does fare well against a team with a bunch of water types, and a 4x Ice Weak Zygarde. Plus, Zaza is a Tapu Fini who doesn't mind water type attacks even in rain. But to just look at Toge's team in a rain vacuum would be underestimating how good some of his mons can be in the matchup. I actually really like his Hoopa U here. The risk behind carrying a bunch of very slow mons on your team is that it opens the door for Hoopa to break the doors down on Zazo's defensive cores. I don't see very many Hoopa answers, and there are a lot of mons that can potentially come in on. It's also important to note that Alolan Ninetales can easily set up Aurora Veil, and if Tapu Fini has to come into Defog, that forces it to take damage that it really can't afford to. So with that in mind, I'm gonna go Togobor and the Portland Timbers, but I think it is going to be a close game. Another game that I'm sure will be very close is Asker J and the Montreal Hapsols against Bird and the Tampa Bay Frogadiers. And for this game, I don't like being completely predictable in my scripts, but I am in love with the Koko. A Calm Mind Tapu Koko, potentially with a Z move, looks really nice for Aster in this game. And Bird has to choose one mon between Necrozma, Gliscor, and Magnezone to stuff it up, because everything else he has just loses to it. I also see Mega Aerodactyl getting a lot of mileage in this game, because the Rock Flying Dual Stab it gets is very hard for Bird to switch into as well. He's got mons with good recovery, but they get thrown off balance when they're forced to click their recovery moves almost every turn, because they're taking over 50% from attacks. And Aster is probably the best coach in the league at throwing their opponents off balance. Compared to Gypsy, who's the other dominant coach this season, who basically forces opponents' mons to bang their heads against his walls, Aster is a bit more fancy with his prep. Now, being fancy isn't necessarily a good or bad thing, but who am I to argue against a team with only 1 loss all season? So I'll take the Habsols, and we'll move to our next game, which is the second of 3 Battles of Los Angeles we have this season. We've got Danza and the LA Nido-Kings against Matty Brawlhawk and the LA Reshiram. Now, if I didn't know the history between these two teams, I would easily lean the Reshiram here, but Danza's one of the few coaches that historically has had Matty's number over the years. I point to Season 6, where Matty played in 8 regular season games, would be busted as hell, Magirna, Lando, T, Zard, X team that's become pretty infamous since it was last seen, and the only team that beat him in the regular season was the LA Nidokings. So instantly I have to be a bit cautious with this selection, but I can't help but see Celesteela and wonder how the hell Dan is going to kill it. Yes, he has a Victini, but nothing else on his team is a reliable way of stopping it. Not Lando, not Torn, not even Lantern. I guess Gothorita could trap it and then just spam Thunderbolt, but we're still talking about a 1-point mon with only 75 base special attack. It's just disgusting. I noticed Danza also has a few issues stopping Keldeo, as he doesn't have great switch-ins to the combination of water and fighting moves, so that's definitely an issue he has. I think Maddie's team is one of the few that can stomach the inherent power of Danza's wall breakers, so even though Maddie's previous record against Danza has been quite spotty, I still think he'll emerge victorious. But we'll flip to the other conference in the NPL for our final 4 games. We'll start with Merc and the San Francisco Reggie Giants taking on David and the FC Poplio. This game is definitely interesting, considering that Merc has been one of the best performing coaches all season, but David has been making a lot of his draft league living this year off hacking the crap out of the dominant figureheads of the league. But I won't personally hold that against him. What does concern me a bit here is Kartana, because it can be absolutely evil in this game if Merc can break down Skarmory and Decidueye, which shouldn't be hard considering the kind of team he has can pressure those mons quite easily. So yeah, considering how successful Merc has been and how not successful David has been, taking the Reggie Giants is a pretty easy decision for me. But considering it is David, I wouldn't be surprised if it is a close game just because he's played up to his competition quite often. Next, we have 2 teams that are trending in opposite directions, the Phoenix Sunkern and the Anaheim Altarias. I think this game is going to come down to the Steel types. Cheese will be able to pressure Ace quite easily with the combination of Jirachi and Mega Steelix. The first mon is versatile and tricky to prep for, the other is just a huge powerhouse, especially in sand, and has high physical defense to fend off even super effective attacks from Ace's offense. The speed that Cheese has is faster than Ace's, what with the combination of Unburned Hawlucha and Sandrush Stoutland. Those 2 can easily pressure the kind of team Ace has consistently brought. And there's also the fact that the Altarias have been on a skid as of late, while the Phoenix Sunkern have showed glimpses of the team that they were last season and in their early years in the NPL. So I will take the hot squad, that is Phoenix, because they're in Arizona. But we'll move to game 7 out of 8, the Sydney Sharpedos against the Baltimore Braviaries. We're talking about Gypsy King here. What do you want from me? When I look at Blake's team, there isn't that much breaking potential, and anything that could potentially do so on that squad would just get revenged by Gypsy's really bulky yet strong mons. Now, speaking from my experience of watching Gypsy's games, he doesn't get swept without hacks. I mean, Blake could try Dual Dance Thunderous T, but you already know what Gypsy is going to pack some kind of Pyapa Berry Nil Lego or something just for the occasion. This game is pretty much already over for me. It is my lock. I'm going to go with Gypsy over Blake, even though picking against Blake has not been the most successful venture for me, but if I keep doing it, eventually it will work. At least I'm hoping. But now the final game on Week 8's schedule is the Houston Soul Rockets against the Gotham City Goldworks. Adam did it. He is the last team standing in Houston. And we've learned with the Soul Rockets that setup is quite scary to face off against, and that's usually the way Adam has been able to win his games, by taking advantage of the offensive prowess of Blacephalon and Superior. Except for this matchup, Rob has a Weavile, and that mon really shellacks half of Adam's team, or at least the mons he could potentially bring. It just gets Okos, and Adam does not have the best switch-ins to it. I guess Klefki might count, but he is pretty much forced to go for an offensive move, because any status move like Thunder Wave or Toxic just bounces off thanks to Weavile's Dark typing. If Rob switches though, then what's the damage there? That regen core is going to be very helpful in dealing with Klefki, because neither Tangrowth or Slowbro are weak to that much except for like Toxic or something. As much as Adam has been decent at setting up solid win conditions, he doesn't deal well with opposing offense either. I love Rob's Gyarados in this game because when you add Z-moves to a Dragon Dance mon with decent coverage, it equals a lot of trouble for any team facing off against Gotham City. So I am going to go with the Golurks here, although I do acknowledge that Adam is probably better than a lot of people are giving him credit for, at least in terms of his playstyle. I just can't go against Rob here. And that is it for Week 8. Thank you all so much for watching. Make sure to like this video if you enjoyed. Subscribe to the NPL channel for more analyst videos, including power rankings and potentially more pick'em stuff if other people remember they actually exist. Make sure to check out the NPL's official Twitter page and fan Discord to interact more with your favorite coaches and analysts. And check out the channels for the coaches and analysts in the description as well. But my name is NoPunIntended, and until I see you next time, take care.